All right, Izzy and Heather. Mom's Kitchen. I'm going to try this, make a little video step by step so you can save it. There's my pot. I'm going to use that for beans. And I'm going to use this pan for rice. And I'm going to put the same ingredients in both. I'm going to start with the red oil. I'm testing this out, making sure I know how to pause this. Okay, I'm going to pour the red oil. For the rice, I'm going to use 2 spoonfuls. This mixing spoon or serving spoon. 2 of these of the red oil for the rice. 1 for the beans. So I'm going to pour it in. Here's my sazon. I will put 1 packet. I'm going to put 1 packet in the beans and probably 1 packet in the rice, just because I'm making a small pot of rice. When I cook the big pot for the holidays, I put 4 of these packets. But today I'm only going to use 1 in here, 1 for the rice, 1 for the beans. I'll come back. Okay, so there's the red oil for the beans. 2 spoonfuls of red oil achote for the rice. There's my 1 packet of sazon, that red powder. 1 packet for the beans. 1 packet for the rice. Here's my homemade sofrito. So I'm going to put 1 spoon in for the rice and 1 spoon in for the beans. There's the sofrito for the beans. There's my sofrito for the rice. I used 1 of these spoonfuls for the beans and I put 1.5 for the rice, just because the rice is going to be more. And that's how much you'd want to use for your family size, or even 2 spoons. 2 of these with sofrito. The more the better, because the more ingredients you use, the more flavor your food will have. Now I'm going to use garlic powder, oregano, onion powder, and black pepper, which I can't find. Oh, I have a big one. Black pepper. So I always use these 4 ingredients: onion powder, black pepper, oregano leaves, garlic powder. So I'm going to pour some in. Okay, so those 4 spices are in there already. I don't measure anything. I just sprinkle in there. Like I said, sometimes the more seasoning, the better. See? So I'm going to pour in now some tomato sauce. Here's my can of Goya tomato sauce. Most of it goes in the rice. And the rest in there. You see, I don't measure anything. I've been doing this for years. So I just kind of, I'd say about 1/3 in there, and the rest of the can in your rice, because you have more in your rice. Now I turn this on, and I'm just going to let it simmer. I'm going to turn them both on. Now there's one more thing I'm going to add to the beans. For the beans, I add ham. So I'm going to throw ham in there. So you mix it, you just let it, you're just going to let that saute. Beans, same ingredients for both. I'm going to add some ham. Okay, so there's my ham. You want to have a lid because it's going to start to like splatter. Especially, you don't want to have it too high. I'm just going to let it low, you see? And I put a lid on for the rice. I'm just going to let that cook in there for a little bit. I am going to make yellow rice with chicken, but the chicken I had cooked already separately. It's over in that pot. I got to take the skin out. I'm letting it cool down. But I'm going to throw that chicken inside this pot. And I'll throw a can of beans in there. I will be back. Alrighty, let me show you what it looks like. It's starting to smell good. You just want to let it cook like that a little bit. Let the ham cook. If you like potatoes in your beans, you can chop some up and throw them in there, but you have to cook the potatoes first. You want them nice and soft before you add them to your beans, because the beans are already cooked. They're nice and soft. And if you throw your potatoes in there with your beans at the same time without cooking your potatoes, your beans will get all smushed. The potatoes will be hard. Let's check the rice. Well, no rice in here yet, but you see how it's just like simmering, and it smells really, really good. See, you just want to cook your sofrito with all the other ingredients, because sofrito, it's just a bunch of raw spices. It has onions, peppers, garlic, cilantro, and something else called recao. And so you just want to make sure all that cooks a little bit with your extra ingredients. So while that is sauteing a little bit or simmering, I'm going to pull the chicken out of that pot and separate it so that I can have it ready for the rice, and I will be back. Okay, so the beans are ready to go in here. You see how that's really cooking up? That's what you want, for it to look like that. And then you use any can of beans. I don't rinse my beans. I just throw everything in there. These are black beans. And then what I do is I pour water in here because it needs some more broth. So here's a can of water. See, just black beans. Now I'm not gonna use the whole can, I don't think. You just want it to have, see, some broth. So it does not need the whole can. It's going to boil. You need to let it boil. Maybe I'll throw a little bit more water, because you want plenty of broth to pour over your rice. And you want that to boil. So I'm going to add a little bit more water. So I add, I don't know, half a can maybe. I don't measure anything. The very, very last thing you're going to add is your adobo, which is right here, because this has salt and a whole bunch of other seasonings. So you add a little bit and then you taste it. So let me open this jar. Okay, so just sprinkle a little bit. Mix it up. Now you can put the fire up. You want it to come to a boil. So I'm going to get a spoon and taste it. Yeah, the very last ingredient would be your adobo, because you have so many different spices in there that's going to add a little bit of flavor to your food. You don't want your food to be too salty. So I'm going to taste. Perfect. Doesn't need anything else. It'll come to a boil. Now for the rice, this is ready. You see how it's bubbling? But I have to get the chicken in there, so I'm gonna Let me see what I'm gonna do. The water over there where I cook the chicken, I don't dump that out because that has flavor. I'm gonna throw it in there. Okay, so what I did is the water that I had over here in that pot, I dumped it in here, and I'm gonna put the fire up. Now, I want that to come to a boil before I throw my rice in. And I don't throw out that water. It has a lot of good flavor from cooking the chicken in there. See? Look at that beautiful color. Let that come to a boil while I work on my chicken. Beans are boiling. You just let them boil for a while and just keep checking them. You don't want your beans to fall apart. Just let them boil for a little. And then my rice will soon, that water, it's not rice yet, but I'm gonna put the fire up. I have it on high just for it to come to a boil. And I'm gonna throw the chicken in there. Yellow rice with chicken. I'm gonna let that boil. Then I'll dump my rice in there. And I can tell I probably have too much water for the little bit of rice I'm gonna cook. I'll be back. Okay, now the beans, I'm gonna turn them off. You could tell like the broth is getting a little thick. It has gotten a little thicker. That's what you want. You just want it to get a little thick, but you don't want your beans to fall apart. And if you let it boil too much, your beans are just going to become mush. So, I mean, you can let it boil as long as you want, but just keep checking the beans so they don't fall apart. That, just by looking at the broth, you can tell it's getting thicker. So I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to cover it, and the beans are done. And the water is boiling for the rice. So I'm going to throw my rice in there. I got to get it ready. I'm going to cover my beans. Alrighty, so this is at a full boil. You see that? So what I'm going to do is, I have 4 cups of rice here. That's about how much you want for your size family. I'm just going to dump that in there. I added an extra cup just because I have a lot of water in there and I don't want to throw my water out. You mix it. The bag tells you like how much water you should have, but this is how my mom taught me. You lay your spoon. I'm holding it here, see? So it don't stick up, but my mom taught me that if you lay your spoon on top of the rice, the spoon should be completely covered. That's how you know you got enough water. Or you can measure it according to the instructions. Now I have to add adobo, so I have to put this down. Alright, so I added adobo to the rice. It's coming to a boil. So the rice is just kind of tricky. Like, I have it on high fire, but I'm going to lower it. You don't want your rice to burn. I'm going to lower it a little bit, but it has to come to a full boil. And so, I don't know, I make it a little different now, because once it comes to a boil like that, you see it's boiling. First of all, you don't want it to stick, which it's not. So because it's starting to boil, I'm going to cover it. And I'm going to lower the fire kind of medium, as you can see. It's not, this is like super low. but I have it kind of medium, more lower than medium, until the rice gets completely dried up, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, let me show you what it looks like. And while I was waiting, I cleaned up my stove because it had splattered all over the place. So of course my stove is nice and clean. A clean spoon. I'll show you what the rice is starting to look like. It's hot. See, it's drying up. You want that to dry really good. I'm gonna mix this up a little. I'll let it sit for a little bit more. I'm gonna lower the fire. Once you see that it's drying up like that, you want your fire low so it doesn't burn. I put it down a little bit. You don't want it to burn. So I'll let it sit there for a few more minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes. Once you have everything in there, your rice with all your spices, and it's boiling, you cover it, your rice will be done like in 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. It depends how much rice you're cooking. So I'm gonna let it sit there for a few more minutes, and then I'll come and I'll stir it. And I'll show you what it looks like, and we shall be back. You like my stove? It's clean now. Okay, let me show you what it looks like, and then I'm going to mix it. So that's what it looks like. I'm gonna put the phone down so I can mix it. I mixed it up. Stir it really well. That's what it looks like. Chicken all over the place. Those brown spots, they're chicken. It just looks brown in the picture, but I'm gonna let it cook. Just let it on low fire for another 10 minutes, maybe 10-15 minutes. It'll continue to dry up a little bit more, and it'll be done. Let's see how the rice is looking. Let me get my little mitt here. Yum. I'm gonna mix it one more time, and it's done. I mixed it one more time, and it's completely done. So I'm gonna turn off the stove now. And this is what my final product looks like. Look at that beautiful color with some avocado, beans with ham. Time to taste it. Bon appetit.